Sevati Dumas is an important character in Black Ops 6, but the question is, what's her backstory and how does she fit into the seasonal story being told through the Black Ops 6 lifecycle? Now, if you've played through the campaign already, you'll already know she plays a big part there. And while we don't learn a huge amount about her backstory in the main missions and the regular objectives that you're running through as you complete the campaign, because obviously we're really focused on Pantheon at that point, but there are lots of little optional dialogue conversations and generally little sprinkles of intel and information that we can find through the campaign and in the marketing assets for the game, and together they reveal how dark her past really is.
The guild took me in as a child, an orphan on the streets of Morocco. They became my family and provided a vision for what I could become. A weapon. I was happy to protect them, to kill for them. Until one day they betrayed my trust. That was it. Someone died because of me. Undeservedly. That's all I feel like saying about that.
So, we learn from this that Sevati is a Moroccan national, and she was taken in by the guild, very ominous, as an orphan while she was roaming the streets of Morocco. Now, one question that we do currently have about Sevati is, what happened to her parents? There have been orphans in the Call of Duty and the Black Ops timelines many times over the years, but we often do get some kind of reference to their parents. For example, Edward Richtofen is an orphan, but we know that he made up stories about his parents being famous scientists when he was in his orphanage. Now, in Sevati's case, we could speculate that the guild might have played a part in her parents' either disappearance or their deaths, but we'll circle back to that a little later in the video. So, she was taken in by the guild and was then relocated to Avalon. And Avalon, you've probably heard a bunch of times through the Black Ops 6 season, is this new fictional location. It's going to be a Warzone map in 2025, but for the time being, it's just a fictional city on the Mediterranean coast. And it's also where a ton of the zombie storyline events are taking place following the events of Terminus. Now, while in Avalon, Sevati says that the guild provided her a vision of what she could be, what she could become as a weapon. And she received extensive training while she was there. So she was trained in the arts of assassination, infiltration, espionage, and eventually, over time, she managed to climb the ranks within the guild and become their deadliest assassin. And once she was in that position of power, she also really felt like she had an adopted family around her, and so she carried out her family's every bidding. Everything they could possibly want her to do, she would do it. Now, that worked for a while, and that was good, life was good there, but things went a bit sideways when a new guy entered the picture called Pascal.
Years ago, I was involved with someone. His name was Pascal, another member of the guild. I had never met anyone like him. Someone who didn't take me at face value. He was convinced I wasn't a killer at heart, that I cared too much. And I believed him. I told guild leadership that I no longer wanted that life.
So upon meeting Pascal, she had doubts about what she was up to with the guild, and she realized that if she was ever gonna start a family or just have any kind of normal life whatsoever, she'd never be able to do it inside that kind of organizational structure and with that responsibility on her shoulders. However, the guild had their own perspectives and their own opinions about whether or not that was the right move for Sevati.
They confided in me. They knew that Pascal was an operative from a rival family. He had infiltrated the guild to sow discord, take our secrets. They had the evidence.
This really is to be expected in these crime families and syndicates and cloak and dagger organizations, right? In that scenario, you're always gonna use love and emotional attachment and things like that to try and worm your way in places, to be a spy, or to just generally gather intel. And it worked on Sevati, and that part of her ended up succumbing where in all other areas she had become so tough and so resilient.
So they had me orchestrate his assassination. The most difficult thing I've ever done. Yes.
And so, based on what the guild had said, she killed him. But the problem was, there was more to the story than Sevati knew when she did so.
But It probably won't shock you, Case, to learn what happened next. The whole thing was a lie. He was innocent. I fled the guild and vowed to myself that I would bring the whole house down. Pascal was right about one thing. I do care too much. But he also got something wrong. I am a killer. Irreversibly.
So, more or less, Sevati is John Wick. Yeah, she went crazy on the guild. She made it her life's mission to take the guild down and also to take out anyone that stood in her way, with this knowledge now clarified to her that, yeah, she was a killer. She wasn't the more reserved or more cautious person that she maybe thought she was prior, but actually, she was just naturally out for blood. And this is where Russell Adler comes into the scene. So Adler was investigating Pantheon for framing him for the events of Black Ops 2 a couple of years prior. And there were very serious things to be wrapped up in, right? The deaths of American hero Alex Mason, Jason Hudson, and Frank Woods being permanently disabled and forced into a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And so obviously Adler wanted to figure out who the hell had pinned this on him. And so he figured if Pantheon was potentially involved in any kind of criminal networks, they might have ties to one of the crime families in Avalon, and so it would make sense to go to one of the crime family members, or ex-members, in order to get the dirt on them and try and kind of find a way in. So Sev was a perfect pick. Now, when Woods, Marshall, and Case were suspended from active CIA duty, they decided to follow up on Adler's leads and reached out to Sev, just like Adler had done, to try and expand on things there and see what she could help them with, and also invite her to join the team. This is when Case and Sev first meet in the mission Blood Feud in the Black Ops 6 campaign, and in that mission, they know that they need to do something to get Sev onto their side, and so Case is tasked with assassinating members of the guild, and that's obviously gonna flip Sev over to aligning with them because she hates the guild after what they did to Pascal. Now obviously, in that mission, Case is successful, Sev then joins the team, and throughout the campaign, she helps the overall group hunt down Pantheon, and then eventually hunt down Jane Harrow. So then, at the end of the campaign, the Deputy Director of the CIA, which is Daniel Livingston, enlists Woods, Marshall, and Adler's rogue Black Ops team to continue working off the books and continue hunting down Pantheon as well, in spite of Jane's supposed death. And so that then leads directly into the Season 1 cinematic, which is the beginning of the post-launch seasonal story for Black Ops 6, and it's focused specifically on Sevati.
The Pantheons infiltrated Avalon's underworld. They're after the global crime networks. It's all about influence and control.
We're not gonna let that happen. Sev, what's the play?
We need allies. My record? The French Syndicate.
Her mention of the French Syndicate here is interesting because the French Syndicate are also wrapped up in the zombies story, and you've kind of got opposing forces now. Sev's suggestion is to make a deal with the French Syndicate and to take down the Lutazzi family, who are the French Syndicate's rivals, in the process.
We can't trust them, but we can make a deal. We take down the rival Lutazzi family and they return the favor. It's a three-part operation.
The funny thing is that in Terminus, the French Syndicate are the enemies of that squad. So Weaver, Carver, Gray, and Maya are actually anti-French Syndicate because of what Franco, who works for the French Syndicate, did to Maya's brother. Essentially, Franco sold Maya's brother, Nathan, to Dr. Modi, who was the lead scientist at Terminus Island, and who then ended up turning Nathan into this weird amalgam mini-boss in the middle of the Easter egg. So they've got reason to hate the French Syndicate, but Sevati is now working with the French Syndicate.
First, distract. The Lutazzi have red tastes. We use that against them. Second, sabotage. We cut their legs right out from under them. Third, we get the f*** out.
Right. And when it goes off the rails?
We improvise.
Now the question perhaps remains of, okay, this is all great, but what if the guild, recognizing that Sevati hates their guts, try and take her down? Like, is there not risk that she's going to be taken out? But clearly she's not worried.
And if the guild gets involved?
You worry about the Lutazzi. I'll take care of the guild. Time to get your hands dirty.
So clearly she feels like she can play these crime families against one another, seeing as she's been in a crime family herself for so many years and she knows that world better than anybody else. Now, I mentioned that the Guild might have had some part to play in the disappearance or erasure of Sevati's parents. And we know that the Guild were willing to be extremely manipulative, like in the case of Pascal, to Sevati in order to get her to do what they wanted. And so I could fully imagine them getting rid of Sevati's parents themselves just so that she would then join them. And we know based on what Franco's done with Nathan and Maya that crime family is equally twisted, and so I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Sevati realizes that she can't even trust the French Syndicate who she's intending to work with here because they're just as corrupt as everybody else and they maybe have done to Nathan what the Guild did to her. So what do you think of Sev as a character? Are you excited to see where she goes next? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.